Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me. I am still Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com. It is still in the description below. It is still your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see on any of our platforms. Please reach out to me directly. I am Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com for pricing. In 2014, Hublot proved it's not all about image, it also has an interest in watchmaking. Granted, this Hublot Classic Fusion 8-day power reserve wasn't the first in-house Hublot caliber, but it combines a thin, fine, and complicated movement with exterior elegance not commonly associated with the brand. This is a rare Hublot for the understated watch nerd. So, being a Classic Fusion, it's thinner, it's more directly linked to the style of the original 1980 MDM Genève Hublot dress watch, and in a combination of titanium sapphire and black ceramic, it is very light. Though 45 millimeters in diameter, it doesn't look or feel that big. 10.8 millimeters thick and 54.6 millimeters from lug to lug. Now, when I throw the watch on my wrist, again, being basically all sapphire, titanium, and black ceramic, it's feather light. It's also super short. It's a rare Hublot that can duck under a dress cuff and a formal sleeve. Now, from over the top, it might look like it's a bit too big for your wrist if your wrist is under my size, but I can assure you that when you look down the barrel, you can see I've actually got some clearance on each side. So if your wrist is 15 centimeters circumference and up, you're going to find that this fits and sits nice. My wrist, again, is 16 centimeters. Big is the look, but it's not overpowering. It's more stark because it's all black, and you can just see how thin this watch is. Also, there's a little bit of an ergonomic advantage in that the lugs are angled down on each side, so it does sort of drape around the wrist. Now, there's a bit of virtual flare or stiffness to the strap. You can't pull it straight down for the most part, so it's going to curve out a little bit. So if you've got a smaller wrist, you just want to make sure that you strap it tightly. The strap is a hybrid of large rectangular scale alligator leather and semi-gloss black with a monotone stitch, and then Hublot's traditional rubber strap on the underside. The rubber strap helping to isolate the leather from the moisture, heat, sweat, and grit of the wrist so that it'll last longer. You can see no crimping, no gouging, a brand new Hublot factory strap, and it's paired with a clasp that includes externally a combination of polished H-style Hublot themed screws, contrast between polish and satin, and then we have internally stainless steel with DLC treatment. Twin trigger release, so you've got to press both triggers for this to open. It cannot fly open inadvertently. You can see the chassis has an Hublot H pattern to it, and then what happens is you take the strap, you tuck it through, you pin it down on those two pins, you close everything, and now the excess length hides underneath the strap, so there's no need for strap minder loops, and there's no excess length visible externally, so it's both a very secure clasp and a very clean one once sized down. Taking a look at the case, you can see the direct descendant of the original 1980 Hublot is thinner, finer, and more subtle than something like a Big Bang or a King Power. There is contrast here between the polished bolts, or I guess they're screws, properly speaking, so between the polished screws and the black matte ceramic, but also between the matte ceramic and the glossy polished ceramic. We've got a resin insert between the bezel and the case that acts as the bezel gasket. It is matted. We have a glossy push-down Hublot H-signed crown. The watch is 50 meters water resistant. You can see that it's finished the same way it would be if it were a steel, titanium, or precious metal Hublot watch, with satin on the lug hoods, polish on the flank, polish on the conical edge of the bezel, and then satin vertical across the top. Black ceramic, I love it. Subtle contrast, but also it does a great job of shrugging off scratches and scuffs. That's the thing about ceramic. It's second really only to the sapphire in hardness on the watch, laughing off with its 1200 Vickers hardness, insults that would leave marks even in hardened stainless steel. If you love enduring beauty and you abhor marks on your watch, this is the way to go. The dial is black, and you can see that it features a black lacquered treatment. It's black on black, really, with the Hublot signature ghosted Hublot under-branding for a change. You can see we have faceted and polished individual block-style indices, so stick style. We also have baton-style hands that have been faceted down their center for better contrast against the dial base. You can see we have a similar mini hand for the power reserve, which says power reserve 8 days, so you know how long it'll run. We have a little sub-seconds register that includes its own faceted baton hand, and then a polished chaptering with a little bit of a dished interior profile. So the watch does include a couple of features that I include among the very finest of watch refinements, including extremely little dead angle. As soon as you start to turn the crown, the minute hand jumps. It doesn't have that kind of loose, unresponsive, side-to-side rocking that you'd find on like an old van or an old truck that's been worn out. There's no slop in the mechanism, which I really appreciate. There's also an intermediate position where you can find the quickset. And you'll note that the date is black on black, so it blends nicely into the dial, and it has a little faceted step down, so it's not a clumsy shear cut through the dial. There is that little step between dial and disc. Okay, taking a look at the power reserve indicator, you can see as I wind the watch, the power reserve indicator advances slowly. Flipping everything over, you can see this broad and quite impressive Hublot manufacturer caliber HUB 1601. So the first thing you'll notice that it does fill the case back. So I love that hand and glove fit when you've got a movement designed specifically for a case. Now this example is a limited edition of 500 pieces. This is number 210. A lot of people get a bit confused by these case backs. As you can see, it says titanium at the top and then ceramic at the bottom. What's titanium is the inner case that acts as the water-resistant vessel for the movement and the dial. Externally, we have this polymer gasket and we have ceramic parts, but internally it is a titanium case. 8 days of power reserve. You can see it's broad and open and partially skeletonized to show you the drivetrain, which I appreciate. It's not artisanally finished, but for a mechanically finished movement, it is neatly executed, thoughtfully detailed, and worthwhile in terms of its display caseback. This is a movement you will want to see. Now, it has those 8 days of power reserve. It pivots on 33 joules. It's actually quite thin for what it is at 4.4 millimeters thick. It beats away at 3 hertz, so 21,600 vibrations per hour. It's got the power reserve and the quickset. The only refinement it lacks is some sort of stop seconds function, which I would have liked to have seen, but it's got a lot of other things going for it. You can see it has a lovely pocket watch inspired swan's neck style click spring, and all of the wheels feature handsome solarization on the top, with solarization for the crown wheel core and then satination on the wheels below. A great looking watch, and again, it's a movement oriented Hublot with subtlety, superb ergonomics, and it's almost an in-house counterpoint or riposte to the bigger, bolder, badder, and brasher ethos of the King Powers and the big bangs that were being made at the same time as this. So if you're a movement guy, but you think you might want to go with the porthole people out of curiosity, this could be a great way to add the only Hublot you'll ever want to your collection. Reach out to Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details.